Hi everyone, I'm Sandy Peckinpah, and I've been doing these Facebook Live videos for a long time. And one of the things that I love about doing them is that not only do I love sharing my story, I'm a writer and an author and a real estate agent. What I love about sharing my story is that I know sometimes things that happen in your life are helpful to other people. And so I like to share my story as a way of reaching out to other people and say, are you feeling like me? Are we alike in some way? Have we experienced similar thoughts and things that have happened? And so what I do is I write about it, and I have a blog on medium.com, and I've also written for Huffington Post, and I have written for a platform called The Mission on Medium. Also, the startup. I have a lot of places where I love sharing my writing. And what I want you to know most of all, though, is that you are fuel for me. So when you watch my broadcasts, this really helps me understand what I should be writing more about. So if you're just joining me, again, I'm Sandy Peckinpah. I'm a writer, I'm an author, and I passionately love sharing my story. So today I have something that I think will be beneficial to you. I have, over the years, experienced a lot of life, and through that life, I have been able to go back and observe the things that I've experienced for the lessons that it teaches me. So today, what I have for you is 12 strategies for coping with difficult times. I think everybody has difficult times. Everybody goes through it. And I'm seeing a lot of people come on here. So I am thrilled that you're joining me, and I can't see the screen, what it's saying. So if I don't respond to you, I will read every name that is on this broadcast at the end. So I'm so grateful that you're here. As I said, I'm going to be sharing with you today 12 strategies for coping with difficult times. Now, I wrote this article, I think it was published by The Mission. I wrote this article a while ago, but I've sort of upgraded it and rethought it. And these conversations sometimes are going to get a little heavy by maybe our thoughts about the experiences that we've had that are difficult. But I want this to be about the solution, the building your resilience, because guess what? We all have the ability to be resilient, and that is the thing that we are born with. It is part of nature. It's in our DNA to bounce back. And what I love saying is not just bounce back, but bounce forward, because tapping into your resilience is the inner reset button for whatever has gone on or come your way, interrupted your life, maybe propelled your life in a way that you didn't expect. And so resilience is sort of the inner cure for the things that are stopping you from going forward in life. Oh, I love all the hearts. Thank you. You know, resilience won't cure what happened to you, but there are ways that you can incorporate what happened to you in your life that will serve you later in life. Now, I love watching some of the chef shows on Netflix. And so if you watch Chef's Table, you perhaps saw restaurateur chef Nikki Nakayama. And she talked about a Japanese term called kuyashi. And what is kuyashi? Kuyashi is that emotion you feel when you fail or something bad has happened. But it's the inspiration to fuel the pursuit of achievement. And so she says that when she has an opportunity, like something, maybe somebody comes into her restaurant and criticizes her food, or it's not what they expected, she uses that as a bounce forward in order to perfect what she does, to make it even better. So I think Kuyashi is the perfect word that, paired with resilience, will give you the results that you're looking for in life, that bounce forward moment from those tragedies. We've all had tragedies. Everyone has a story. And most of you that are my Facebook friends know my story because I share it a lot. Why do I share it? Because that's my passion in life. My passion is to share my story and connect with my story, because I'm a writer. And that's what writers do. Even fiction writers, no matter what they're writing about, there's a portion of that life that goes into those fictional characters. And I know that to be true. So when most of you know that I lost my son, my 16-year-old son, to bacterial meningitis. And I want to just take a moment to say that when you lose a child, people always say it's the worst that can happen. And it is. It absolutely is the worst that can happen. However, it doesn't mean that you won't have a life after loss. And it doesn't mean that you have to be sad forever. You go through a process that is very difficult, and hopefully you have support and love surrounding you. It's very difficult, but it also takes a conscious effort to move forward in life after you've had a tragedy such as that. So all of us have had some experience or will have some experience with loss. Others of us will have some experience or know someone with the experience of health issues or financial difficulties. There are so many things that happen in our lives today, and somehow when we're on Facebook, we think everybody else has the better life. But I can tell you that there are always things in your life that you'll have to deal with, the unexpected. And that's what we're talking about today, is dealing with the unexpected. How can you prepare yourself, strengthen your reserve to become stronger for whatever comes your way? Well, I call these 12 practices of resilient people. So I'm going to go through them, and if you want to write them down, you can. Or if you want, I could actually post the link to them in my live stream with Sandy Peckinpah group. If you're not a member of my group, that's where I usually do my live streams. But today I wanted to post from my profile because a lot of you don't know I have that group. A lot of you don't know that I broadcast Monday through Thursday, usually at 5 o'clock Pacific time from California. So here we are. So here are the important practices of resilient people. Okay, are you ready? I'm so thrilled with all of you joining me, by the way. I'm seeing all these names come up, and I can sort of see them because I'm not wearing my glasses. I can't wear my glasses while I'm doing this because they reflect on the screen. Anyway, so I have to sort of think I know who's coming on, but at the end, I'm going to read every name that joined me on this broadcast. I am so grateful. So the important practices of resilient people, it's a way of looking at things that you can do that prepare you so that you can be at the top of your game. At the top of your game most days. I say most days because we all have tough days, but I like to think that we arm ourselves most days with these practices. So here are the practices of resilient people. 1, they know that life has cycles, and they appreciate all that they've been through. So life is a sum total of your experiences. Because I lost my son when he was 16 years old doesn't mean that my life on a daily basis is negatively affected by that loss, because I understand that what I got in that precious 16 years, 3 months and 10 days gave me enough love for a lifetime for my son. And that's what people don't realize, is that when they experience a loss, it doesn't mean that love ends. Love continues on. And in fact, the biggest surprise of all is that my love for my son Garrett grows every day. It is stronger today than it was when he died. because love can't help but grow. It continues to grow. It's your child, my child. It continues to grow whether he is on this planet or not. And that's the beautiful thing about love. So if you don't examine your life experiences, they don't give you value. So you can look at your life experiences and say, wow, I had the worst time in 2009 with the downturn in the market, but what did you learn from that? I'll tell you, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about resourcefulness, saving money, looking at other options, what else I could do, how I could feed my spirit, how I could fuel my energy every day when I was financially challenged during the downturn in the market. So those are things that you can look at as what those negative experiences can teach you. Number 2, resilient people make an effort to be optimistic. You know, if there's a negative little voice that sort of sits on your shoulder that will try to destroy your thoughts. And it's there because at one time it tried to protect you. And it continues to try to protect you, but not always in a positive way. And so if that voice is trying to hold you back by saying, oh, you're not good enough to do that, or oh, the market's never going to turn around, or you're never going to have a client that you know will bring you what you're hoping for in your business, and you know you have all kinds of negative little chatter that goes on in your head. But you have to actually push that away, dismiss it, and say, I am an optimistic person, and I choose to believe that all good things come to me even greater than I ever imagined. And that's exactly what I do when I start to get very negative. We all do it. We all wake up sometimes with those little demons, but I have to consciously say that to myself. So here's number 3. Resilient people, they know that fear is part of the game. So if you're feeling fear, then what you're feeling is transition. Because your fear is telling you something is around the corner and you don't know what. Do you take that step or not? And so when you do that, you have to realize that you're taking a big step toward your future. And you may fail and you may not. If you fail, you learn something. If you don't fail, thank goodness you took that challenge. So you see, fear is part of the game. In fact, Henry Fonda, when he was 75 years old, used to throw up before every performance. And it was because he cared so much about going on stage. It was his passion. It was everything that he wanted to put out onto that stage made him afraid that he couldn't deliver, but he knew he had to step on that stage anyway, even though he was in the bathroom throwing up 5 minutes before. He cared that much. So don't let fear stop you. Fear means that you're in transition. You're just about to try something new, and it's scary, but it's not necessarily a negative thing. Think about that. Number 4, resilient people take their health seriously and their self-care seriously. It's so important that you know how you show up in the world. Your appearance, that I often give this example of, I go to the gym most mornings, and am I going to stop at the grocery store and run into a client and look not my best, maybe? I prepared for it. And maybe that's over the top, but I can tell you a story of my dear friend, Michael Alden, who shared with me this story. He's a producer on Broadway. He's a Tony-winning producer and an Emmy-winning television producer. And he listened to my broadcasts when I did them on Periscope, and he's a dear friend. Anyway, he listened to my broadcasts, And he said that he went out the door one morning, he lives in New York, to go to the gym, and he was locking the door, and all of a sudden he looked at himself in the window and said, I look horrible. I am not ready. And he said, Sandy, I heard your voice in my head. Always be prepared to meet your next client. Always be prepared for something great to happen. So he went back in, he took a shower, washed his hair, went to the gym in better clothes, and sure enough, next to him working out was the head of a network who listened to the pitch for his show, and he got the deal. So how about that for showing up in the world and just being a little bit prepared? So what I do, and now I'm just giving all my secrets away, is that if I go to the gym and say it's a fall day, I always take a pair of boots to change out of my dirty tennis shoes and put on boots, and then I'll have a little jacket in the car. So I at least look a little bit better after getting out of the gym, because believe me, it always happens. I meet a client in the veggie section. It always happens. So be prepared. That was step 4. Think about how you show up in the world and pay attention to your health. Do you get enough sleep? Do you get enough good food? Stay healthy. Number 5, I hope I can get through all 12 of these today. So number 5, resilient people know that what they do for a living is one of the highest expressions of who they are. Make it count. So I do several things in my life that I consider my living. My day-to-day living is real estate. And what I love, and I've discovered within real estate, it can be hard, it can be challenging, it can be wonderful. And in fact, last week was one of those wonderful moments where my partner, Kim, and I were able to sell a home to a first-time home buyer couple. And those are the kind of wonderful things that you do in real estate that bring you such joy. You can always find those moments of the highest expression of you, connecting with your clients, your friends, your coworkers in a very special way, a truthful way. Share who you are, the essence of you. So, number 6, resilient people know, they've learned that resistance is a force of nature. Now, there is a book that I absolutely love, and I return to it over and over and over again, written by Steven Pressfield. It's called The War of Art. Steven Pressfield wrote The Legend of Bagger Vance, and he writes a lot of books about the topic of writing. He's very inspirational. And he said that resistance is a force of nature, and it can manifest in different ways, like spending too much time on social media, or avoiding important phone calls, or if you're a writer, just sitting in the chair and writing. And I'm telling you, it's the absolute truth. Resistance is so strong. No matter how much I love writing, I can do everything else in my house before I sit down and write, but I've set times for myself that I sit down and write. So it is a time in my calendar. So if you're feeling that resistance, get rid of the resistance to do what you know needs to be done, because you're going to feel so much better. It's that difficult phone call. How long have you put it off, day after day after day? I just did it not too long ago, where I knew I had to call and make an appointment, and I kept doing it day after day. I'd put it off. And finally I realized that I was doing exactly that, resisting, because it was something I didn't want to do. So what did I do? I made the phone call, and I could breathe. So recognize that resistance is a part of you. It's a force of nature, and it's important you overcome. Number 7, resilient people have a mindful daily practice. Now, what is a mindful daily practice? A lot of people resist meditation. That's okay. That doesn't have to be part of your practice. But please do something other than rolling out of bed and checking emails. The first thing that should happen is the beautiful experience of waking up in gratitude and looking for something that feels good. Now, I can look out my window into my backyard, and I just love my backyard because it's taken me, I've lived here since 2003, and it's taken me years to build up my backyard, and I have this pool and the waterfall is running and I have all my roses blooming, and I can wake up and say, I am so grateful to be living here and be able to look from my master bed out my back window, and it is so beautiful. That's what you need to do before you check messages, because one email can destroy your morning. Try to come up with a practice that works for you, and I'll talk more about this over the weeks to come, but in a nutshell, my daily practice is to get up. I love coffee, so I make this fabulous cup of coffee with my an espresso machine and foam, and I make a ritual out of it, and then I take it upstairs, and if my husband is here, I make one for him, because as you know, we live in 2 states, but we are married and happily, and we in fact, he just left today, which I don't like him to be gone, but when we're together, we have that morning practice together. So the first thing I do is read from an inspirational book, and I only do 5 minutes, and I will have a moment of quiet where I set my intention for the day, and then I drink my coffee, and then I can go on to other things. So just remember that it's important to have a morning session with yourself that sets the intention for the day instead of just breaking right into, the work of the day. Number 8, resilient people know that inspiration is different than motivation, but they seek both, because motivation is necessary to complete a task. It's that forward momentum. It's like when you don't want to go to gym, but you know you have to, and you propel yourself out of bed, and once you put those workout clothes on, you know that you're going to get there. Inspiration is what ensures that you see the bigger picture. If someone inspires you because their workout is so effective and they've maybe lost 80 pounds and they're just a glorious example that change can happen, that's inspiration. So with inspiration, you see the bigger picture. You see the bigger purpose of what you're doing. Number 9, resilient people know how to build a support system. And this is one of the most important things that you can do. Now, I want to tell you that I know there are some people on this broadcast who have also experienced the loss of a child. And as I said, I can't see all the names because I'm not wearing my glasses, but I'm going to acknowledge all of you when I get off this broadcast, because I want to thank you for joining me. It's such a difficult thing to put your pain out there, and I want to thank you. But resilient people know that they have a support system, and if you don't, it is so important to develop one. I wrote a whole article, I think it was for Huffington Post, on the dream team. Developing your dream team. Who are those people you can count on? And in my book that I wrote for parents who have lost children, I say how important it is to make that list of people who can be with you and support you every step of the way, because there are those people who will go grocery shopping for you, or just sit with you and have a cup of coffee, or pick up your kids from school, or pick up your dry cleaning, or garden with you. I had one friend who helped me create a garden after my son died, and I am so grateful that sometimes we would sit out there for hours just digging in the dirt and not say a word. But it was so precious to me. So build your support system, and if you don't have one, there are ways that you can go about building it, and we can talk about that over the next several broadcasts about building your system, because that for me was critical to my healing. And I promise you that if you do that, you're ahead of the game. Stick with your resilience plan. Number 10, we're almost done here. Only 3 more. Number 10, resilient people know that nothing ever stays the same. Now, we like to think that we're so in charge that we know exactly what's going to happen in our lives. We can certainly look at a day ahead and say, well, I've got a doctor's appointment, or I've got the gym, and I've got lunch with a friend, and I've got work, and then I've got, my group at night, and then you can think that you're in control, but always remember that nothing ever stays the same, and that's not in a negative way. Everything you're experiencing today will be part of your tomorrow, because everything you're experiencing today is changing you. And so you won't be the same person tomorrow that you are today. Don't be afraid of it. Recognize it as a time to grow in faith and strength. I remember many times in my life where I've said, this is the happiest I've ever been. And yet I look at it and look back on it and realize that what I learned through those experiences is what I did want in my life. There will always be challenges. It's part of being human. Rose Kennedy, I think it was Rose Kennedy that said, no one is immune to those life challenges. She lost many children. No one is immune to experiencing tough times, but no one is immune to not experiencing good times. You will have great moments in your life. Treasure them, honor them, and let the joy of them remain with you forever, and know that whatever it was that you went through during the tough time, you bounced forward, okay? Now, number 11 is resilient people focus on love as the most important thing in life. Now, I can tell you that I lost my father last July, not this July, but a year ago July. And before he died, and this was several months before he died, he was 90. I didn't know how long he would have on this planet. I told him all the things that I loved about him and what he did for me growing up and throughout my lifetime. I told him how proud I was. He was an admiral. I told him how proud I was to be his daughter, an admiral's daughter, right? I was so proud of him and so humbled by his success in life to have achieved all that he had achieved. He was always that shining light in my life, and I am so grateful. I'm so grateful to still have my mom. And I tell her all the time the things that I appreciate about her. She was an entrepreneur. She had two successful restaurants in Monterey. She taught me that women can start businesses and be super successful. And, this was in the 60s, and she was raising children, and she said, you know what? I want to start a business. She didn't know anything about the restaurant business, and she created 2 restaurants on the Monterey Peninsula, not knowing anything. She taught herself. So if you have things in your life, people in your life, express love, and that's number 12. Leave nothing unsaid to those you love. Continue sharing your love with them, and you will have no regrets. There may be always something you wish you had said. There was I'm obsessed because there's one more thing I would have liked to have told my father. But I know that on that day that I told him, and the subsequent days after that he knew how much I loved him, because I left nothing unsaid. So leave nothing unsaid to those you love. Those are the 12 strategies of resilient people. And guess what? You're a resilient person. because everyone is born with the capability of being resilient if you choose it. So, sometimes I think I look back on all the life that I've had, and I think of, I think it was Oprah that reminded me of this, that Glinda in The Wizard of Oz said to Dorothy, "You've always had the power, my dear. You've had it all along." Well, you've always had the power to be resilient and bounce forward. You've had it all along. You have that power. So thank you for joining me tonight. I am so grateful. And as I said, I can't see all of the people that are on this broadcast with me, but I want to share my love with you and what I know, and I'll continue to do these broadcasts at 5 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and maybe an occasional Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I don't know. I do it when I feel inspired. Thank you for the hearts. Thank you for joining me. You're all just so awesome. Have a great evening.